China has approved the promotion of a security specialist to the #2 position in Hong Kong's government, a move critics fear will lead to tighter social controls. John Lee will now serve as deputy to the territory's leader, Carrie Lam. After his appointment, he praised China's introduction of a national security law in Hong Kong, saying it had turned chaos into governance. Well, I'm joined now by Hong Kong journalist Laurel Chor, who's now studying at the University of Oxford. Laurel, thank you very much for joining us. What does John Lee's appointment say to you?
I think some people are going to be worried that this means Hong Kong is essentially turning into a police state. John Lee was security chief when the protest happened. He was the one who pushed the extradition bill that actually sparked the protests in 2019. And he's the one who oversaw all the security and police operations throughout the protests, who essentially condoned, if not encouraged, this crackdown that we've seen over the last few years. So I think people are certainly going to be quite worried about what this means for Hong Kong. It seems to signify just a further slipping into an authoritarian style regime.
An hour ago, I spoke to China analyst Victor Gao, who you'll know in Beijing, who said this is entirely a matter decided within Hong Kong.
Well, it's not really. He was appointed by Beijing, and in fact, he's said that he wants to ensure that patriots rule Hong Kong. So this is more of Beijing tightening its grip on Hong Kong and less of that autonomy that Hong Kong was promised until 2047 that we've seen completely erode over the last few years.
You're a journalist and a photographer. The shutting down of Apple Daily, which we've reported on this week, what does that mean for you, and what did it mean to you when you were there?
A lot of people are declaring this the death knell for press freedom in Hong Kong. It's quite shocking. Apple Daily ran for 26 years. I grew up seeing Apple Daily everywhere. My family read Apple Daily. It was a tabloid. It was flawed. But for many Hong Kongers, it came to represent this sole dissenting voice in the media landscape, where its publisher and its editors really stood up explicitly for democracy, for the freedom of speech. And to see this institution fall so quickly in a matter of days is quite shocking to a lot of people. And on its very last run, the paper actually printed 1 million copies, and people were lining up all over the city to grab a few, and people are still trying to get their hands on them. So it shows how much this meant to Hong Kongers.
Let's look at international reaction. When you hear calls for tougher international sanctions, Laurel, what are you able to say about that?
Well, under the national security law, for me to comment on what I think the international community should do would actually be breaking that. So I can't actually comment on that at risk of putting myself at prosecution under the law. So, but what I can say is that the international community response has seemed somewhat muted. We've seen comments from President Joe Biden and from the UK, but beyond that, it doesn't seem like there will actually be consequences for anyone in Hong Kong or China because of this.
I understand that you have to choose your words carefully, but I do just wonder, finally, how you feel seeing what is happening in a place that is your home.
It is really difficult, especially being far away and in the UK. But one thing that I certainly hadn't expected when I first thought about coming here to study for a master's was that there would be so many Hong Kongers coming to the UK. So on one hand, it's sad to see so many people being forced to leave their home or feeling like they had no choice. But on the other hand, there is this growing community here, and it does feel like there's a bit of home here, even though we all watch with sadness with what's happening in Hong Kong.
Well, Laurel Chor, speaking from Oxford, thank you for being with us.